The rain had just begun to fall, softly at first, like a whisper against the windows of Riverside Grill, one of those elegant places with warm lighting, leather booths, and prices that made you think twice before ordering dessert. Daniel Carter stood outside, holding an umbrella that had seen better days, one hand clutching his 7-year-old daughter Lily's hand, the other gripping his jacket closed against the wind. He wasn't here for a fancy meal. He was here because tonight was supposed to be special. A celebration of finally paying off the last hospital bill from his late wife's accident. It had taken him 4 years, 2 jobs, and countless sleepless nights, but he'd done it. "Daddy," Lily said softly, her blue eyes bright under the umbrella's edge. "Do you think Mom would be proud?" Daniel smiled, brushing a strand of wet hair from her forehead. "I think she'd be very proud, sweetheart. Now let's go get that burger you've been dreaming about." Inside the restaurant, the soft murmur of conversation and clinking glasses filled the air. Daniel led Lily to the hostess stand. The young hostess smiled politely. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" He shook his head. "Just 2, please. We're celebrating tonight." She nodded, scanning her tablet. Before she could respond, the sound of wheels scraping pavement caught their attention. At the door, a woman in a wheelchair was struggling to maneuver over the small step. The rain poured harder now, bouncing off her lap, soaking her long, dark coat. Her hair was pinned neatly, her face pale but strong, framed by tired eyes that carried years of quiet resilience. The hostess hesitated. Ma'am, unfortunately, the ramp is on the side entrance, but it's currently under maintenance. We can't." She trailed off, clearly uncomfortable. The woman's lips trembled slightly. "I see, so I can't come in then?" A man in a suit near the bar spoke up loudly, his tone edged with disdain. "Maybe she can order takeout. We're trying to have dinner, not a pity parade." A few people chuckled uncomfortably. Daniel's chest tightened. He glanced at Lily, who was watching the scene with wide, confused eyes. Something in him snapped. Something born of all those nights he'd spent watching his wife struggle with her wheelchair after the accident that had eventually taken her life. He remembered how people used to stare, how they'd whisper, how they'd make her feel small. "Stay here, pumpkin," he said softly to Lily, and before the hostess could react, Daniel stepped forward. "Hey," he said sharply, his voice carrying across the restaurant. "You think it's funny, watching someone struggle like that?" The man in the suit smirked. "I'm just saying she's holding up the entrance. Not exactly the right place for what?" Daniel cut him off. "For a human being? You want her to crawl in the back door just so your steak doesn't get cold?" The room went silent. Even the waiters froze. The woman in the wheelchair looked up, startled. Daniel turned to the hostess. "You have tables for people who walk. You can make space for someone who rolls." He looked down at the step, then at the door frame. "I'll lift the chair myself if I have to." Before anyone could stop him, Daniel stepped into the rain, bent down, and said gently to the woman, "Ma'am, if you don't mind, I can help." Her eyes glistened, a mix of surprise and vulnerability. "You don't have to." "I want to," he interrupted softly. "No one should be made to feel less than others." She nodded silently. Daniel gripped the handles of her wheelchair, lifted carefully, and guided her over the step. The restaurant fell into a hush, all eyes following as he rolled her inside. Lily clapped softly from her seat, beaming with pride. The manager rushed over, flustered. "Sir, please, that wasn't necessary." "Yeah," Daniel said, his tone calm but firm. "It was." He wiped the rain from his hands. "You might want to fix that ramp before someone else gets turned away." The woman looked up at him, smiling faintly. "Thank you," she whispered. "You didn't have to do that." He smiled back. "You reminded me of someone. My wife used a wheelchair too." Something flickered in her expression. Empathy, sorrow, maybe both. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "It's okay," Daniel replied, glancing at Lily. "She left me with enough love for a lifetime." The hostess, now visibly shaken by guilt, found them a table near the window. The woman was seated a few tables away, and for a while the restaurant's hum returned. But there was something different in the air now, a quiet respect that hadn't been there before. The man in the suit who'd mocked her earlier avoided eye contact. Daniel tried to focus on dinner, but Lily kept glancing toward the woman. "Daddy," she whispered, "she looks lonely. Can she sit with us?" Daniel smiled. "You know what? That's a great idea." He stood, walked over to her table and said, "My daughter thinks you'd make great company. Care to join us?" The woman's eyes softened. "Are you sure? I don't want to intrude." "You'd be doing us a favor," Daniel said with a warm grin. "We were just about to order dessert." She laughed softly and rolled her chair over to their table. They talked for hours about everything and nothing. Her name was Amelia Brooks. She used to travel the world before a car accident left her paralyzed from the waist down. Instead of giving up, she'd turned her energy to helping others through a charity foundation she never named during the conversation. Daniel told her about working as a mechanic, raising Lily alone and trying to make ends meet after losing his wife. Amelia listened quietly, her gaze tender. "You know," she said softly, "strength isn't about how much you can carry. It's about how much love you can give even when you've lost everything." Lily leaned forward. "You sound like my mommy," Amelia smiled. "Then your mommy must have been amazing." "She was," Lily replied proudly. "And Daddy's amazing too. He fixes cars and helps people." Daniel chuckled. "She's my biggest fan." The night went on with laughter and stories. By the time they left, the rain had stopped, and a cool breeze brushed the streets clean. Daniel helped Amelia back into her car, noticing a sleek black sedan with tinted windows and a driver in a suit waiting for her. She gave him a knowing smile. "Thank you, Daniel. For dinner, and for seeing me." He nodded. "Anytime, ma'am." She paused. "Would you mind giving me your number? I'd like to send something for Lily. A small thank you." He hesitated, then handed her a slip of paper. "Sure, but you don't have to." "I know," she said gently. "That's why I want to." 2 days passed. Daniel returned to his regular life, fixing cars, making sandwiches for Lily, and trying not to think too much about the woman in the wheelchair who had somehow touched something deep in him. That Wednesday, as he was closing up the shop, a black car pulled up outside. The same driver stepped out holding a sealed envelope. "Mr. Carter?" he asked formally. "This is for you." Inside was a letter on thick paper with elegant handwriting. "Dear Daniel, you didn't know me that night. And you didn't need to. You helped without asking for anything in return. People like you remind me that kindness is not lost in this world. I wanted to do something in return, not as charity, but as a thank you for being the kind of man this world needs more of. I own the Brooks Foundation, and we're opening a new branch to help veterans, single parents, and people with disabilities rejoin the workforce. I would like you to manage the facility's operations. The position includes full benefits, housing, and a salary that should give you and Lily the comfort you both deserve. If you accept, my assistant will call you tomorrow. With gratitude, Amelia Brooks." Daniel read it 3 times before sitting down heavily, staring at the paper as if it were a dream. A million thoughts raced through his mind. When he finally told Lily, she squealed with joy and threw her arms around his neck. "Daddy, we're going to be okay." Tears filled his eyes as he whispered, "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be just fine." Weeks later, Daniel stood at the grand opening of the Brooks Foundation's new center. Amelia was there, radiant in a soft cream dress, her chair adorned with small white flowers that Lily had placed earlier. Cameras flashed as she gave her speech about compassion and second chances. Then she looked toward Daniel and said, "Sometimes the strongest people are those who carry others without realizing they're changing lives." That night at Riverside Grill, one man reminded me that kindness still wins. The crowd turned toward him, clapping as Daniel stood embarrassed but smiling. Lily squeezed his hand. "See, Daddy? Mommy is proud." He looked down at her, then at Amelia, who nodded warmly. In that moment, Daniel realized something profound. Life had taken so much from him, but it had also given him the chance to be exactly what his wife would have wanted. A man who never stopped choosing kindness, even when the world didn't deserve it. As the ceremony ended, Amelia wheeled over to him. "You're really something, Daniel Carter," she said with a smile. He laughed softly. "So are you, Miss Brooks. I didn't know you were a millionaire." "And I didn't know you were a hero," she replied. He shook his head. "I'm just a dad doing his best." She extended her hand. "Sometimes that's what heroes are." The evening faded into golden light. Daniel stood there watching Lily chase bubbles across the lawn while Amelia looked on, her eyes shimmering with peace. Somewhere deep down, both knew that fate hadn't just crossed their paths, it had rewritten them. And though they came from 2 very different worlds, that night in the rain had bound them forever with the simplest, most powerful truth there is. Kindness changes everything.